right, I want to bring in my panel now. We have CNN political analyst and Washington bureau chief for the Daily Beast, Jackie Kucinich, and we have former federal prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Seth Waxman. He's with the Dickinson Wright law firm. Also, we have CNN legal and national security analyst Asha Rangappa with us. She's also a former FBI special agent and is now a lecturer at Yale. Jackie, one of the things that makes it hard to separate politics from this Nunes memo at all is when you think about who Devin Nunes is and his role. He was on the Trump transition team. He has acted at times so much in the interest of the White House as he did this last March.
I have seen intelligence reports that clearly show that the president-elect and his team were, I guess, at least monitored and disseminated out in intelligence and what appears to be raw, or I shouldn't say raw, but intelligence reporting channels. I'm not comfortable with it, and I want to make sure that the White House understands it.
Now, it turns out that he was able to see those intelligence reports because he was summoned to the White House in a very weird, sort of secretive way that he went to the White House to view these reports. The ethics committee ended up investigating him, which is why at the time he temporarily stepped aside from doing Russia things, although that he was cleared of any wrongdoing. But suffice to say, he's not objective. He's not an objective party here.
Especially when you're talking to Democrats. Democrats have painted him now as not an honest broker on this. When you see Adam Schiff, who's the ranking member on that committee, they don't get along anymore, which is odd. For the Intelligence Committee back in the day, before all of this, they used to. It used to be one of the few committees where partisanship was kind of set aside in the interest of national security. It seems like sepia-toned and quaint right now. But as a result of Nunes being involved with this, some of his interactions with the White House that you mentioned, he's now kind of a figurehead for the Republicans who are trying to derail the Russia investigation and make it more about the DOJ and the FBI than about the Kremlin.
And Asha, one of the things that Democrats are saying, one of the reasons for why this shouldn't be released is they say this is just unprecedented for something, for classified information like this to be released this way. Is that true?
Well, there's a reason that FISAs are top secret. Just to zoom back, the FISA process is essentially the foreign intelligence analog to the criminal wiretap procedure. These are basically very similar, but the FISA process is secret because there are very sensitive methods and sources. These could include human sources who, if they're exposed, literally could be killed. They could include electronic sources that, if they're uncovered, could dry up the intelligence that the FBI or even the CIA and NSA are getting and could compromise other ongoing investigations. So, you know, Congress should definitely exercise its oversight function, but there are channels to report abuse. The Office of the Inspector General, for example, there can be internal audits, but putting this out into the public has severe consequences, not least that it allows Russia to see what state of the investigation, what the state of our investigation is against them, and be able to take countermeasures to avoid detection in the future. And we know that they are preparing to interfere again in our election, so that is not good for America.
Seth, I want to ask you about the FBI Deputy Director, Andrew McCabe. We figured he was going in March, but now we know that he's going earlier. So this was pretty sudden. The White House says, look, the president had nothing to do with this, but we know that he has attacked Andrew McCabe over and over. We know the special counsel is looking at obstruction of justice. Is this anything that could be a part of that?
Sure, I don't know that his actual stepping down just yesterday could be, you know, an overt act or an act that's, you know, directly evidence of obstruction, but clearly the acts leading up to that, the constant badgering, fitting into that pattern of dismissing Comey, of telling Jeff Sessions, you know, don't recuse yourself, you need to stay here to protect me, and then the attacks on Andrew McCabe. So I think it fits that pattern in practice that the special prosecutor will be looking at.
So it would be one data point maybe, or it would speak to, or would really the way the president has behaved when it comes to tweeting and attacking McCabe really be the bigger issue than him stepping down?
Well, I think you're right on that point, but I think the way a prosecutor looks at this is that it's got to be proven circumstantially. You have to prove corrupt intent for an obstruction case. And while we would like to get into the mind of Donald Trump, and sometimes we see inroads into that through his tweets, I mean, at the end of the day, the prosecutor's got to build his case circumstantially, and that's the way prosecutors think. They think of patterns, practices, how you can show over a period of time that step after step after step all points in one direction. Andrew McCabe's attacks on him would fit into that as a piece of the puzzle, and at the end of the day, you'd put it all together and submit it either to a jury or potentially, if there's impeachment in this case, to Congress.
I wonder, Asha, what is the effect here on the FBI's rank and file when you're talking about McCabe leaving and then Republicans accusing the FBI of abusing power?
Right. I think that it will have a significant effect on morale. This is an agency that has 35,000 people, 14,000 agents. When you have a career agent like Andrew McCabe, that's something that's typically celebrated within the FBI. It's a huge achievement. Somebody usually leaves with a big party and speeches. They don't leave at lunchtime, never to be seen again. And I think the unceremonious way in which he left and in which Comey left, they see themselves as a family, and it would be an affront to the family. It's becoming like The Apprentice. Where someone leaves abruptly and gets sent home in a limo. But I think that, it's sending a bad message also. It's the president and now Congress saying, if you conduct an investigation that we don't like, we will accuse you of misconduct, we will investigate you, we will smear you in public, to kind of use the Harvey Weinstein words, we'll make sure you never work in this town again. And I think that's really what's being heard, and it's a really dangerous precedent to be setting for what should be an independent law enforcement agency.
There's been this question of whether the president is going to talk to Robert Mueller. I want you to listen, Jackie, to what Chris Christie said about this very thing.
I don't think there's been any credible allegations against the President of the United States. And I don't think the President of the United States, unless there are credible allegations, which I don't believe there are, should be sitting across from a special counsel. The presidency is different. I don't think they should do that.
Trump said he'd love to sit down. Christie is saying something different. Do you think could you see a situation where Trump doesn't sit down with Mueller?
Here's the thing about Chris Christie. If Chris Christie was Bob Mueller, Chris Christie used to do this, right? He's an AG. There's no way he wouldn't try to interview the president. That wouldn't happen. So is Chris Christie trying to talk through the TV to the president? Perhaps. But, at this moment, the president has signaled that he's going to. Who knows what he'll say tomorrow, though, because it has gone back and forth.
Jackie, Seth, Asha, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And coming up, the Trump...